In this session, we're going to explore what can actually be done now with technology. And we'll have the opportunity to view firsthand some of the latest technologies demonstrated by 4 leading organisations. We're going to start with the Cambridge Gcse Computing Online. This MOOC was created by the partnership of the Exam Board OCR, Cambridge University Press and the Raspberry Pi Foundation. It will be introduced today by Clive Beale, Director of Educational Development at Raspberry Pi, and then Christine Swan, Director of ICT and Enterprise at the Starport High School and Sixth Form Centre. Clive.
Thanks. Okay, so I basically run the education stuff at the Raspberry Pi Foundation. We are not a hardware company, although we have sold lots of these little things. We set up as an educational charity, and our brief and our drive and our passion is about using technology and computing to be creative and to get people thinking and problem solving, and basically to get people back into computing, which in this country we have neglected for quite a long time. You've all seen the press and you know the stories behind it. So we invented this little thing. It's the Raspberry Pi. It's a low-cost computer. You plug it into a monitor and you pop in an SD card and you've got yourself a fully working Linux computer. I'm not going to dwell too much on this because we're here to look at how teachers can actually use the cloud and how we can be involved in teaching in the 21st century. But Sagar talked a bit about remoteness, and one thing that we've been sort of looking at and working with is plugging in a big old hard drive into this, stick a little Wi-Fi dongle in it, and you can pop that anywhere where there isn't broadband access in rural areas, and you can access things such as Khan Academy, Wikipedia, all of these things. So you can actually access big information sources, online courses like the MOOC, and you don't need the internet. So that's the Raspberry Pi. So all of this, I mean, we've just heard some fantastic stuff, some really, really inspiring stuff. I'm an ex-teacher. I taught for 10 years, and the first thing I always think when I hear educational theory is, how does it affect me in the classroom? How can I get involved, and what can I actually do in practice on a day-to-day basis? So I had a few little ideas of how you can actually do stuff now. Okay, if you don't have access to a sole learning space, if you don't have access to the latest technology, as a teacher, as a school, how can you actually start to improve and enhance learning using technology? We got involved with OCR quite a long time back, and they saw the potential of the Raspberry Pi for teaching and learning, and there's stuff online, and we've developed resources with them. The first thing you can do, and it sounds really obvious, is just stick stuff in the cloud. So this is Carrie-Anne Philbin's site. She works for us now. She's just finished teaching. It doesn't have to be complex. It doesn't have to be all singing or dancing. You stick stuff online, you put stuff in the cloud. She set up Google Documents for all her students. She didn't have to go through the technicians, didn't have to get permissions, didn't have to do all these things. Just get stuck in and do it. And so stuff in the cloud, you can submit your work, you can mark the work and get it back, and it can be as simple as that. Okay, you're now working in the cloud. One of my big beefs at the moment is learning spaces and teaching spaces. And these to me are teaching spaces, okay? This is a really, really standard ICT setup in UK schools today. You see this model everywhere, U-shapes, full of ICT kits. And that's fine if you want to teach, but actually what I would like to see more of, and in fact I suggest if you're a teacher or senior management, you go to your head and you demand to have what I think of as learning spaces. And again, back to this sort of constructivism and groups learning together and doing stuff and peer support. This is where learning happens, okay? So a bunch of stuff in the centre of the table. Absolute minimum for me in a modern classroom, especially when you're doing computing or something practical and creative, is to have a space where you can get together, you can break out, and you can get away from this sort of structured environment. And I think that's critical. It sounds quite trivial because it's a practical issue, but I think it's something that's very important. And the other thing is access to resources and online resources. So we've got the MOOC. I spoke to someone at Better Teach, came up and said, it's fantastic, this. I let the kids go on it, and they work at their own pace, and they pause it, and they rewind. I've been giving it as homework. I've been doing the flipped classroom. So we've got to give people world-class resources and give them access to that through the internet. That can be the MOOC, it can be YouTube. I've got my own sort of personal hole-in-the-wall story that sort of links into YouTube. And about 2 years ago, I gave my 6-year-old son a Raspberry Pi, and it's got Scratch on it, which is a language for the young kids to get into programming. And he really wasn't interested, and I was a bit disappointed, but hey. And I came back about 6 months later, and he'd made this fantastic game in Scratch. And I was just amazed. It was quite a cool game. And I said, well, how did you actually learn to do this? And what had happened, he'd been going to his granny's every Wednesday after school. And because she didn't get it, she just let him go onto YouTube. He'd been going onto YouTube and looking at Scratch videos. He'd taught himself. He'd come back. He'd made the game. And so, although it's not a cloud granny, it's the same principle. And what was even more shocking, and I said to him, well, what do you actually like about this? And he said, Dad, I can think about thinking. And I just thought, a 6-year-old's talking about metacognition? He's been possessed. Quite powerful stuff. And also the tools. This to us is a toolkit for thinking and playing and hacking and creating. And it really is an undervalued thing, especially in computing. We've got to be able to play, we've got to be able to mess about. Here's Minecraft. You can tweet, you can put messages into Minecraft. Connection between the cloud, connection between the real world and the virtual world. Very, very powerful stuff. And when you start to give people tools and resources, they start to do very cool and profound things. This is a 13-year-old who's sent a Pi up into space. He's got marshmallows, and he wanted to see if they expanded as it went up. What I love about this, he's got a grape in there as a control. He's got a grape as a control. And the marshmallows expanded, and he drew a graph, and it was fantastic science. But it goes beyond that. It's got to be cross-curricular. People doing musical stuff, beatboxes, playing tunes on beats, weirdly enough. All sorts of music technology. This is Zoe, our artist in residence, Rachel Rains, has made this device for feeding plants based on the Raspberry Pi. And the plants tweet, and when they get a bit dry and they're not fed very well, they start to tweet on happy thoughts. And when they get fed and they're very happy, they love their owner, and they start to tweet happy thoughts. And again, this connection is a really, really powerful thing and a powerful hook for young people. Art, massively linked into computing and creativity. Down at the bottom, you can tweet and change. This is down in the Docklands. It's called Discovery and Persistence of Vision stuff. And this one I always sort of end with because you start off on this little journey, and you end up somewhere like this, which is sending Babbage into space. Here's our mascot, Babbage, and he's jumping off a balloon about 40 kilometres up. I think it's about 30 metres higher than Felix Baumgartner's record, and he jumped off and parachuted safely to Earth. And that was because this happens when you give people the tools and the resources and the kit and the space to play and experiment and get together and create things. Thank
you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Christine Swan, and I'll just forward that. Okay. And I'm sorry about my title. Apparently, I'm Director of ICT and Enterprise, but what I actually teach is computing. I thought I'd start by telling you a little bit about my history. I always wanted to act, but my parents did not approve at all, and told me to go and get a real career, so I went into teaching. A few months ago, I was asked by Cambridge Assessment if I would be involved in the MOOC project. I was absolutely delighted. Come down to London, make some videos, write the script, be involved in the editing. Wonderful. This is my Oscar moment, so please excuse me while I just enjoy that. I may be an endangered species if you think about some of the things that have been said this morning. I'm a teacher. Let's just reflect on what that actually involves. Every day, I get the chance to change somebody's life, hopefully for the better. I'm training them for careers that don't even exist yet. I've got to predict what skills they might need. I can give them some skills. They can go home, they can sit in their bedroom, they can practice those skills, they can create an app and make their first million. I was involved in that. That feels good. Feels very good. So that's why I do the job that I do. So I am a teacher, and I'm very proud of that fact. So let's talk about the subject. First of all, let's focus on what I actually do in the classroom. Some of these photos were taken last year and some of them were taken just last week. Okay, so there's no sort of trickery here. These are some students on a Gcse course. They've learned how to program, and we made a robot. Made a robot out of Raspberry Pi and an interface board called the PiFace Digital, which is very simple to use with Scratch programming language. So the students have written a program and they're controlling the robots. As you can see, the environment's not great because we couldn't put the robot on the floor and the desks are too narrow, so they had to actually hold it up to stop it from running off the desk. And that was made out of just Lego bits and bobs out of my kid's toy box. I didn't spend very much money on that at all, but it was a brilliant activity. There's the robot. It's also featured in a German newspaper, believe it or not. Here are some of my students. This is my after-school club, and they're actually programming Minecraft. They're creating worlds, but they're actually playing it on a network, which you can't actually see, but I've got a picture of that a bit further on. So they learn how to set up a network. They network their Raspberry Pis. They then write a program in Minecraft to create a world, and then someone else can come and play in their world. And it's pretty cool, and they love it. We're also playing around with Makey Makey. This was a controller made by one of my students just by drawing pencil lines on a piece of paper. And it works, and you can control a simple program written in Scratch using that. So again, pretty cool stuff. This student's written a program, and they didn't really have a purpose except just it's aesthetic, it's pretty. When you click the mouse, it will draw a random pattern of concentric rings, change the colour and make sounds. And other than to entertain, it doesn't really do anything, but she just decided that's what she wanted to make. So she made it. She's one of my GCSE students. This is one of our network. We were fortunate that I was given quite a lot of Cisco kit. I'm an ex-Cisco student. I'm a CCNA graduate. So I got a lot of bits and pieces of kit. So we put it together. We make temporary networks, and it's absolutely great for students as a learning experience. We went to the National Museum of Computing as well. One of my students managed to control single-handedly the oldest working computer in the UK. And again, I think that's a really cool experience. So I just want to return back to the teaching side of what I do. We have a bring your own device policy at school. Students are encouraged to use their smartphones, bring their tablets into school. So we're very, very into connected learning and everybody getting involved. It's a pity that at the moment I can't actually assess them using those skills. And that's a big issue, I think, something we need to address. How are we going to assess students being able to work together and using new technology? And another issue that I want to highlight to you is that a lot of our students come from backgrounds where they don't have access to technology at home. They may be information rich, but they're technology poor. When they go home, they don't have access to the internet, and they may not have a device that they can use. I think this is a real issue. I'm talking about our pupil premium students, and I really would like to see something done to help students access technology when they go home so they can carry on their independent learning. It's something that we would encourage. One of the saddest things I've ever seen is students at the end of lunchtime waiting to see if there's any spare food left in the canteen. This is 2014. This is happening in schools now. We've got to put that right. Thank you.
Now, we've got time, just enough time for one question. If anybody wants to ask anything, this is, at this stage, is there anything in that you didn't understand, or you just wanted it extended, or a little more detail? So the first hand up gets the cheese.
Hello, I'm Valerie Thompson from the Learning Foundation. I completely agree with you about the access issue.
Thank you.
I would encourage any school here today, or any school watching this conference, to sign up for the Mind the Gap campaign, which Lord Putnam launched 3 weeks ago. We now have 100 schools registered for it, and the idea is that each of those 500,000 children who are not online at home are got online within the next 2 years. And it's up to us to do it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm now going to call on Mike Feerick, who is the Chief Executive of ALISON, otherwise known as Advanced Learning Interactive Systems Online. This is a global social enterprise providing essential certified education and workplace training skills free to any individual anywhere over the web. And it is growing at an enormous rate, which I'm sure he's going to tell us about. Mike.
Okay, thanks, Bennett. So yes, Mike Ferrick is my name, CEO, founder of ALISON. Delighted to be here, and thank you to Cambridge Assessment for inviting me. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about ALISON, just to introduce ALISON to those of you that don't know about it, a little bit about how it works, the innovation that we're using related to today, and then just some general thoughts of my own. I guess one thought just from the earlier session is just what Gcse is saying. There's a lot of good ideas there. As a business head and someone who's socially motivated, I guess I thought 7, 8 years ago, how do I set wings to this? There's great ideas here, but how do you put a business model behind it so that it's sustainable? So that's why I see my part and my role in this global revolution. So to begin with, just a couple of ideas. Let's see there. So a couple of ideas just about ALISON. ALISON is often called a MOOC. It was founded in 2007, which is a year before the word MOOC was ever used. But is it a MOOC? Yes, I guess it is. It's massive. It's online. It's open in the sense that it's free to use, and there's courseware on it. But it's a little different from the conventional MOOCs in the sense that everything on ALISON is self-paced. Also, we have a free learning and certification model, because that's important. Certification can be very expensive around the world. We're a social enterprise, so we are a for-profit company, but we genuinely are trying to use technology to make it free. And the other thing is that we're actually profitable, which I shouldn't be saying too loudly, but the reason I'm saying it is that we're sustainable, we're growing, and the likes of ALISON is going to be here, so it's a fact of life. So just keeping going. So just give you a bit of text. I'm delighted to say last week we passed 3 million registered learners worldwide. We would be the second biggest MOOC worldwide, I think, after Gcse, but certainly the largest outside of America. We're signing up about 200,000 people a month, and we have 350,000 graduates worldwide. We have about 500,000 people here in the UK, and we consider the UK as our home market. We're based in the west of Ireland. But, and we have over 500,000 people in Africa now, which I think makes us the largest online learning provider there. So who studies on ALISON? Well, it's young and old. It's just people who have access to education for free for the first time. As a lot of you are familiar, even in a lot of very remote places in the world, people are getting access to the web via wireless in particular. So there's people from every country in the world graduating on ALISON. We're not just in English. We have Arabic partners, and we're moving into a lot of different languages. So it's all over the world. What do you study on ALISON? So we're not a typical MOOC in the sense of we're higher education. We're focused on the workplace. So how I describe it is we're basic education and workplace skills. So you can study, there's 8 categories: business, health, personal development, languages, financial, health literacy, digital, and then school curriculum. And school curriculum is really, really important in the workforce, because 2/3 of the world's workforce do not have a secondary school education. So you have to dip down, particularly into STEM subjects, to educate people. So how does ALISON work? Well, it's quite simple. If those of you that are familiar with it, this is just a course that's online at the moment. It's how to create a website in 20 to 21 days. So it's just an image there. You can see the course here surrounded by blue, and we're surrounded by advertising. Advertising is not just the only business model that we have, but it is important to us, and it's mostly education advertising. So you can see the advertising around it. And up there you can see how you can navigate around. The important one of the important elements of this is that we share the revenue with whoever owns that course. So if you produce a good course and it's popular, you will make money by putting it on ALISON for free. It's an interesting model. So how do we do much more than just putting content up online and allowing people to access it. We add structure and quality to it. And YouTube is probably the biggest provider of learning worldwide. But if you go on there, you're not too sure who the publisher is. You're not too sure about the tracking, the standard length, it's all over the place, the quality. What level is it at? Is that level 101? Is it level 105? That is an issue in a learning environment. So what ALISON brings to that is we do not produce anything near the number of courses or videos that YouTube does. But we add structure. You will know who the publisher is. All of the content is tracked. If you leave it and come back, you can continue from where you left off. There's a standard length. The quality is is reviewed. We think we're quite innovative in how we make the content available, but we're quite conservative in terms of the quality of the content. We have people with master's degrees in pedagogy who go through these courses. And then the standard level, we will tell you where it's at. So the free learning, I call it a free learning ecology on ALISON. So you go on, you do your learning self-paced, then you do assessments. If you pass the assessment at 80%, you become an ALISON graduate. The challenge about being an ALISON graduate is that you can be challenged at any time, anywhere, to sit that test again. And the means of doing that are now possible because the internet is everywhere. And it goes back to the connectivity that Sugata talked about. The internet is everywhere. Because you can connect, it means that you can connect to a bank of questions on nearly any subject, anywhere, at any time. And you can do it on a laptop, you can do it on an iPhone. So it's quite a phenomenal opportunity in bringing testing. So if somebody tells you anywhere that they are good at something, you can test them, saying, okay. They tell you that they're a chemical engineer. They tell you that, that they know basic drama. Anything. All you need is the bank of assessments. And that's what companies like ALISON are building. So just a simple question for you. When hiring, what does an employer want to know? Do they want to know that you passed a test once upon a time? I call it the Walt Disney certification model. We all do this. We're all part of it. We all did degrees. How much of these degrees do we really know now? An employer wants to know what you know on Monday morning when you start a job. And the fact that if someone comes in with an ALISON certification on any subject, they can sit you down and test you. Just like years ago, if you said that you could type at 50 words per minute, they could sit you down and see there and then whether you had that standard. It's very simple. The power of it is that it's free. So what is ALISON? Well, it's less of this, the traditional classroom, and it's much more like that in terms of a trading room, because analytics is our lifeblood. If somebody's studying a course in Nigeria, we want to see if they didn't go past Module 4, why? Why is there a crash of people leaving the course at a certain place? In terms of who is studying, where they're studying, what they're studying, what's the follow-on rates? It's analytics out your ears. There's more people doing analytics at ALISON than the content team. But it's all using the capability of today to make education free. And a couple of elephants in the room. Once you create digital content, the cost of sharing it is zero. High quality content will be available on every subject within the primary school and secondary school really, really quickly because it's all can be commoditized. That does not say the teacher's going to disappear, but the content is going to be commoditized. And what you're going to see out of organizations like ALISON is not just dealing with education, but providing, say, free aptitude tests, which we did last month, bringing students at a very early age all the way through to the recruitment process, dipping down into secondary school, because that's going to happen. So I just want to show you a little bit of judo here. This is something that we're doing with Macmillan, with maths doctors, and it's just taking maths videos and aligning them with the Irish standard. So let's hopefully this works. Okay. Come on. Oh, this worked in a demo 5 minutes ago. Can someone help me in audio there? Taking over? Great.
So we're going to take this result now that we've just got, and we're going to transfer it to this diagram. And it means that this lint here, the lint AG over AB, is equal to the lint AH over AC.
For each of these three methods, we will need a solution as if this was a quadratic equation. So for here, x is equal to -2, or x is equal to +4.
And you can simplify this if you like, or you can just put it straight into your calculator, but you're going to get something that looks like this.
Okay, so we've done that for the Irish certificate, but what I really want to tell you is that it took 350 videos of teachers to completely align it to the Irish standard. It will take another 40 to align it to the UK standard. It'll take another 25 for the US, and then you get to Australia, another 5, another 1 for the Nigerian standard. We can roll out a completely aligned maths curriculum in English for every country worldwide, and we can do that in a week. And you can do that for nearly every subject. And it's not to say that video learning is going to completely teach people in maths, but it just shows you what power is there and what can be used. Just when we started doing these, we were doing maths videos on velocity, and we were just saying about how quickly raindrops fall, and then we were just talking about snowballs and how quickly they can be thrown. And the maths teacher said, "But you're starting to do my job." Yeah, yes, we are. But that does not mean that the teacher disappears. The teacher can teach better. He can teach more people. He can bring them further. Then simple stuff, you can commoditize it and make it more approachable. I'm a Liverpool fan. How quickly does Suarez normally kick a ball at goal? You can do that for Chelsea, Tottenham. All of this stuff can be created really quickly, put on the web for free, make it a lot more interesting. And then if you get, we have a bank of teachers that are willing to help you for free. But then free is an interesting thing. There's only so many people, there's only so many grannies in the world that will actually help you. So if you run aground on too many grannies, you can actually pay for help. And usually the costs are much less than traditional grinds. So that's just showing a bit about ALISON. I just want to get you to think a little bit different about innovation. Innovation, there's a flood of innovation happening in online education. But it's like almost the rainwater in the UK and Ireland these days, is that the floods don't come in tidily in the front door. They come up, the floods come up through the door, the floorboards. They come in every way. So this innovation is affecting us in a lot of different ways. And hopefully, I just want to talk about some unexpected ways. First thing is parents. All over the world, mothers are not having 6 children anymore. Nearly every country has gone down to 2 children. So that the whole idea of the Chinese mother is actually going to become far, far more common, because they're not putting their bets on 6 kids and a few of them surviving to help them in old age. They're betting, putting all their eggs in one basket. They are far more determined that their kids are going to be successful. Also, kids need to be more competitive today. A degree is not what it used to be. A degree does not give you the access to success as it used to. Kids need to be more educated. So more attention is going to be into, parents are going to be putting more attention into kids. And they're going to start getting more in control of their education, and they're not going to leave it to education systems. The second thing is workforce. We're working with a number of international organizations that are starting courses that are aimed at secondary school, because they're very specific, because there's a huge shortage of engineers worldwide. You're going to see the workforce and industry dipping down, providing training opportunity to young students. The challenge to secondary schools, and our very best secondary schools, is are they going to be able to keep our very brightest kids in school at 16, 17, 18? Because industry is going to start dipping down into them. And they may not be going to colleges. They may just start in industry. The other thing is just society generally. We live in a world where we're very privileged, but in the US and the UK is still only 4% of the world's population. There's a lot of people that the education system is just too slow. It's too inefficient, it's too expensive. So what's happening is that society will not wait to train people in the traditional way. It talks about Sagat, it talked about the lack of good teachers. There's alternatives, and they're going to be picked up. And one of the interesting facts is that the people that are involved in education in the UK today, whether it's government or the Department of Education or teachers' unions, they're going to become increasingly irrelevant to the education of young people in the UK, because the international dimension is going to be bigger and bigger. So one final slide on this is just, as much as there's a lot of innovation happening out there, there's a lot of decay going in internally. This is just one example I came across recently, and it was a project management student in ALISON that brought it to my attention. This is a top 200 university located worldwide, and they were just showing their marks in their degree for project management, and 76% achieved a 2-1 and greater. Now, I don't know how many people here graduated with a first or a 2-1, but a 2-1 used to mean something. But when 76% in a top 200 university is actually graduating with a 2-1, it just makes a laugh about it. So grade inflation, there's a lot of decay in the system itself. So finally, yes, are they going to, is it, are teachers going to be coming under more pressure? Is learning going to happen without teachers? Could it happen? Yes, of course it is happening. But I would argue that that you have to do a yes or no question answer to it. But really, a lot of the learning is repetitive that we're doing in secondary schools. It's very easy to commoditize it, and a lot of it's going to go online. It's going to be a very competitive environment. Okay, so I'm pretty much out of time. I have lots of ideas on the future of schools and universities worldwide. I hope I've said enough that gets you thinking. Thank you very much.
And I'm sure we're going to come back to much of that when we get to the discussion section. Now I want to move us on to Futurelearn, which is a private company wholly owned by the Open University. It offers a diverse selection of free, high-quality online courses from some of the world's leading universities and other outstanding cultural institutions. It'll be introduced today by Russell Beale, Professor of Human-Computer Interaction, which is a great title, from the University of Birmingham. Russell.
Thank you very much. Well, thank you very much for the invite. I'm glad you like my title. My title, I also work at Futurelearn. My title at Futurelearn is The Even Better Critical Friend, which means that I'm supposed to sit in meetings saying, I agree with you, but have you thought about this? Which is a very nice position for me to be in. But I'm ready to tell you today about Futurelearn. We're a new MOOC provider based in the UK. And the great thing is that Futurelearn has had the opportunity to look at MOOCs, to see what people are doing, and then to try and reimagine what we ought to do given today's connected world. And I'm really just going to take you through what that sort of thing. So what is a MOOC? MOOCs are massive open online courses, anything from a few students to hundreds of thousands of students. They're open to anybody. They normally require you to put in a few hours a week to study over a period of a few weeks. They vary, the models vary depending on the courses and the providers and so on. But particularly for Futurelearn, we also think that you don't just want to sit there and watch videos and read stuff. You actually want to start interacting with people. That's what we do online most of the time anyway. So what is Futurelearn? Futurelearn is founded by the Open University, which has been doing distance learning for an awfully long time. We've got 29 world-class partners. We've got experts from mobile systems, from pedagogy, from digital media backgrounds, and we try and build our learning design into the platform all the way through. So at the moment we've got a range, 26 world-class universities, some leading cultural institutions, and some major organisations are all partners in Futurelearn, providing our courses and our materials for the learners to pick up. In thinking these things through, we've come up with 3 key principles that we try and put into all of the courses and all the experiences that people have on our platform. And the basic idea is we want to inspire learning for life. So this isn't just about qualifications. This isn't just about schooling. This is about ongoing, continual self-improvement, self-knowledge, all those sorts of things that we want to encourage people to have through telling stories, through provoking conversation, and through celebrating progress. Now, there's an awful lot talked in the MOOC space about how terrible MOOCs are because 100,000 people will start a course and 10 weeks later only 1,000 people have got to the end of it, and that's a massive dropout. You've got 1% completion, and how terrible is that? But we actually would rather see it the other way around. Firstly, you've got 1,000 people who've done all that effort and learned all that stuff. But you've also got 100,000 people who may well have got out. Most of them will have got out of that course what they wanted to. They may have realised that deep understanding of microbiology is not for them, which is fine. They may have decided that once they've understood a bit about DNA and RNA, that's as far as they need to go. All right? They may not want to catch up with the children right in the far southern bits of India. We can let people follow through their interests and go as far as they want to, and we should celebrate that, and we should allow them to celebrate those successes they have on the way. Now, on the Futurelearn platform, it's only been around 3-4 months or so. There's a wide variety of courses. I won't bother reading them out to you, but there's a lot of stuff there, from Hamlet to dental photography, from particle physics to computing at school, and so on. And if there aren't courses there at the moment, you can register, and we'll tell you when courses that interest you will appear, because we're getting more courses produced by our partners every week appearing on the platform. So I'm just going to run through what Futurelearn looks like, because I know some of you may not have played with this sort of thing before. So when you sign up to Futurelearn, you get a choice of courses, and you can pick certain ones. And we'll look at the forensic science course here, and I'll click on my page, and I go to an activity list. And one of the things you'll notice is that at Futurelearn we tend to like bright colours, and we tend to like making things quite clear and crisp and fun. And there's a strong emphasis in the organisation on a crisp, clean, entertaining user experience, so that you can properly engage with this, and it feels modern and it feels fresh, and it's not going to distract you from your learning. So our courses are divided up into weeks, and in weeks you have a number of steps, and these steps are a number of different sorts. They can be articles that you read, videos that you watch, quizzes that you do, and so forth. So if we were going to go to a video, you'd get a page like this, you'd get some discussion, you'd get the video material there, and you get a little, I've been told not to walk over here, but I'm going to go over to point this out to you. You get a little button there, like you would see on a social media site, and that shows that there is conversation happening. And if you click that, you can start to see contextualized comments from other learners about what's been going on in the video. So people are starting to talk about what's happening there, and they're starting to reply to each other. And so we have this social constructivist approach to learning where people start coming together and help each other. And this is the role of some of the teachers. Learners become educators for other people. Educators come in here and can help guide and provoke discussions and so on. Now, we might get a really interesting comment from somebody, and if we do that, we can like that sort of comment. It's so easy to like things, and we like doing it. Facebook is full of likes. But it gives a little bit of public affirmation that you think someone has done something good, and that you're giving them a bit of credence for that. And that's often why we do it. I know a lot of people have sat in here writing some really pithy comment on Facebook about something funny or interesting that's happened in their day, and hoping that their friends really like it, because only when they like it has it been worthwhile. Right? Now, that might be a little bit extreme, but that is how people start to think about social media. And so providing these sorts of hooks into these systems we find very useful, or at least we think it's going to be very useful. We also allow you to follow. You know, here I've got John, who I want to follow because he's doing interesting stuff. And if I follow John, I can look at his page, and I can see the courses he's on, I can see the comments that he's made, the responses he's got, and so on. So I start feeling connected to this body of learners. And that's one of the issues with MOOCs. The massive can be very good, but it can be very bad, because you can feel isolated and on your own. But if you connect people together in a complex social web and allow them to start picking out the interesting characters, you start building a community of connected learners. We've also got a series of quizzes and tests and other sorts of things. I'll just run through very briefly with our sort of test. They're sort of page by page for each question. We've got a CSI one here. The University of Strathclyde produced this course. So we can pick an answer that a crime scene is the scene of an incident, irrespective of whether a criminal or illegal action has been established at the time, and it gets marked, and I get 3 marks for a right answer. If I do something else, the 6 W's are important in scene investigation because they're the basis of scientific investigation. That's not right. Not only do I get told it's not right, but I get some feedback as to where I should look to understand things in order to come back to this quiz and improve stuff going forwards. And I'm going to celebrate my success by scoring 11 out of 12 or doing better than most of the other people on the course or whatever it might be. I can also look at my progress, because giving learners some control and some understanding of what they're doing is really important. I need to know where I am. I need to know where I am in relation to other people, in relation to the goals I've set for myself, and so forth. And so we have a sort of progress page that shows what I'm doing, what I'm scoring, what's happening with the other sorts of courses. I can also, if I don't want to actively sit there and learn, I can just see what's going on the Futurelearn site relating to the sorts of things I do. So I can go to an activity page and I can see people who've responded to comments I've made, people who are talking about stuff I find really interesting, looking at what the people who I follow are doing. Very much a standard social media experience, but focused around learning content that I'm interested in. One of the great things about technology, and we all like technology and we all like relying on technology, is that technology rarely works perfectly for you. So on my machine, this was beautifully formatted. Up here, we're going to talk about massive opal social learn. But the point about Futurelearn that I really want to make is that there's a lot of thought that's gone into the background pedagogy behind the sorts of things that we do. So the approaches we take to presenting information, the ways that we structure the stuff that's presented. The way we allow people to connect has been thought through from a very fundamental basis. And that's the great thing about building a platform from scratch, which is what we've done. We're able to work out what you really should have there, not what's already there and how we go forwards, what you really should have there, and put it into place. And we can then test to see whether the principles that we're applying work and whether they don't work. So I'm a scientist as well as a critical friend for Futurelearn. So it's nice to look at some numbers and what we're doing to date. We've got learners from 190 countries, 97% of whom would recommend Futurelearn or have signed up for other courses. From our first 8 courses, we've just done the analysis on this, at least 10,000 people joined the first 8 courses. Of those, and remember, it's an organisation that has to launch something. So you have to tell the world about yourself, and then a little bit later the courses come along. So we tell the world, we get a lot of people doing that. We then have 60% of those people actually turn up and look at the course they've signed up for, which is pretty good. 86% of those actively carry on through this course. And the really important statistic here is this bottom one. 34% of our learners, a third of people, are making comments and actively engaging in that. Right? The rest might be having some vicarious learning by reading those comments. They might be ignoring them altogether, and that's fine too. You can have a very nice experience on the platform by ignoring everybody else. But a third of people in the very early courses like doing this. Now, at this point, they've not had time to get connected to loads of other people as well. And what this proves really is that this social approach coupled with the pedagogical approach coupled with this user experience seems to be working and seems to be popular with the people that we're reaching. So just to show you what's next, what's possible, what's coming up on the platform, analytics has already been mentioned. The great thing about Massive is that you can run large numbers of experiments very reliably, very quickly. So we can test things out, what actually works for people. And when we do that, we can get benefits for the learners, for the educators, for our university partners, and for the company itself. So everybody wins in this scenario. We're also bringing in things like small group discussions, because the difficulty with Massive is if you've got 100,000 people all shouting at once, you don't tend to hear very much. So we're bringing things back small and finding neat ways of doing small group discussions, of doing peer assessment, of doing all sorts of other interesting approaches to give people different ways of learning. The nice thing about the Futurelearn platform is it's designed mobile first, so it'll work on your mobile phone, it'll work on your tablet, it'll work on your desktop. You have pretty much the same experience there, but optimized for those different sorts of platforms. Futurelearn is about learning for life. That's me.
Again, we have a time for one question. This is because they're all overrunning. This has nothing to do with the chairing. Does anybody want to pick up on either of those two? Anything there that didn't understand, wanted to expand on, improve on? Lady at the back.
Hi, I'm Sheila Coonan from the Open University.
Can you stand so
sorry.
the cameras catch you? Thank you.
I'm not involved with Futurelearn, but I just wondered, could you explain what in the last slide you had, was it argument slides or?
The argue-graph.
Argue-graph, that was it.
Yeah, so an argue-graph is essentially, well, I'll explain to you what it is and then you can work out what it is essentially for yourself. So what you do is you ask people for their opinion on a topic and you try and plot that on a graph. And then you have a debate and a discussion and an argument, and then you ask them to replot their opinion, and you can see whether the group as a whole has moved, whether certain sectors that were sort of in the bottom left have moved up a bit or across a bit. And it allows people to understand both the impact of argument, where their views come from, how their views might change from other people, and it gives you a very visual and visceral representation of the benefits of discussing stuff with other things, how different opinions are formed, and so forth.
Thank you.
Which actually means I think we might incorporate something like that in our October conference, Cambridge Assessment Conference, because it sounds fascinating. Right, we're going to move on now to the online learning platform from Cambridge International Examinations, which supports the Cambridge Gcse Global Perspectives and brings schools together for shared learning. It'll be introduced today by Dr. Helen Eccles, Director of Development. Helen.
Thank you. I'm the last speaker, as you know. I've been told to stay next to this, so please, wave at me if I wander too far away. And because I'm the last speaker, I want to pull together some of the things we heard about earlier. So Sugata this morning said that pedagogy must include the internet. David showed us how his learners really enjoyed feeling connected to other 21st century learners, was I think the phrase that you used. And Nick said that what we need is a virtuous combination of teachers and technology, which I thought was rather a nice phrase. I shall remember that one. What I want to talk about is a subject, a fairly new subject, called Global Perspectives, that draws together all those things and is very similar to some of the courses that we've been hearing about in this session. But importantly, I think, is a mainstream and recognised subject internationally. So Bennett said this is an Gcse, that's short for the International General Certificate of Education, Gcse, for which Cambridge International exams are rightly very well known. So we run a number of different subjects across all the sciences, the humanities, the modern languages. What we wanted to do a few years ago was to introduce some more 21st century skill-like attributes into our learning programmes. And we did it through this subject. At the moment, it runs from age 14 through to age 19. We have plans to take that further down, right into primary. As the name suggests, Global Perspectives, the learners are asked to look at an issue which is global, and to look at that from the different perspectives of people who live in different parts of the world, and also people who might live very close to them in their family or in their local area or in their country. It's a new subject, and so the teachers, we found, needed to have a little bit more confidence in delivering the subject than they would do if it was their standard chemistry, maths or whatever it is. Interestingly, this is a subject that has, I have to catch myself, I was about to say no content. It's not possible to have a learning programme with no content. But the content is individual to each learner. The thing that is consistent that all the learners have and which we assess are the skills. And these are that wonderful phrase, 21st century skills. So things like collaboration, things like group work, presentation, problem solving. These are the skills that are consistent across the group, but the learners choose their own context. So all those different things, of course, skills work very well with technology. We're wanting students to understand what happens in different parts of the world, and of course technology is fantastic for joining together people across the globe. They do some coursework type e-portfolio work. So the obvious thing to do was to develop a platform that would enable us to do all those things. And so the platform, which as you can see is a Moodle-Mahara, a joint Moodle-Mahara platform, has three sort of separate facilities on it. And I'm just going to talk through each one of those in turn very briefly. The first one is an end-to-end course. So it starts at the beginning of the course. You can work your way, if you want to, all the way through. There's an area there for forums, so learners can form their own groups. Learners and teachers together can form a group. Teachers can form their own groups. And then the third area is for e-portfolios, so that the kind of coursework activities that the students do, which actually look very different to traditional coursework, can be kept on that platform and provide us with some knowledge of their learner journey. So let's just have a look at those then, one at a time. So the learning course, and I should have said at the beginning and I forgot, but I do hope some of you managed to see this being demonstrated out there in the hall before this event began, while we were having coffee. I'm sure if you're interested you'll be able to see it later. So the e-learning course, one thing that was very important for us was that it supported the teachers as well as the learners. Because, as I said, the teachers really do need some help. They're not delivering content in the way that teachers traditionally do. Instead, they're really behaving more like a facilitator and guiding the students through the content that they have chosen to follow. So we wanted a course that the teachers could use in a very hands-off way, but also in a way, if they wanted to, that was quite controlled. So teachers can customise the course if that's what they want to do, or they can just let the learners go and stay with that. Now, there are particular sort of 21st century skills that we're very keen on, and one of them is learning what kind of learner you are, so that you can best make use of your learning style. And in order to do that, students have to be encouraged to reflect on their learning journey, on their progress. And so this course encourages that regular reflection, and the students can keep a diary so that they can evidence the path that they've taken. Obviously, a course like this supports the flipped classroom. And also, we use this as the basis, or rather, I should say, the learners, the students use this as the basis for collaboration. So, introducing social media into a mainstream subject, the learners, as you can see, can collaborate. They can do that either within the same class, with the group that they're working with. They can collaborate across classes or groups within the same school, or across schools anywhere in the globe. And those collaboration groups can be watched by teachers. Teachers can join in, or they can choose not to. And we found that this actually is a very motivating thing for the students to do, because they are able to directly discuss with other students in different parts of the world the topic that they're studying in common. So when they do their work, this is the other thing that they really love doing, and if you have a look at the course later, you'll see some really exciting examples of what learners have come up with. They can create a portfolio, and as you can see at the bottom, the portfolio is made up of pages, and each page will have on it several areas. It might be text, it might be a YouTube video, it could be anything that they want it to be. And into that they can import their reflective journal, which we've spoken about. We supply them with the files that they might need to use, and also planning tools, because one of the 21st century skills we like to encourage is planning their work and planning how they're going to go about the tasks they have. And the students can pull into it anything, so Flickr, YouTube, Picasa, anything that they want to use, they can drop into that e-portfolio. Last year we did a trial. It's now out of trial and open to all our schools that are doing Gcse Global Perspectives. So these were the countries of the trial. We just opened it up, as you do, and invited our schools to join in with the trial. We were very happy that they spread themselves fairly equally, because obviously we wouldn't want them all to be in North America, for instance, or Europe. So that's where the schools were. And what we found was quite a common and well-liked pathway for learning, was that there would be a topic. So the syllabus gives suggestions for some topics, but learners can also choose their own. This one was global warming. And what tends to happen is this: it doesn't matter if you can't read it, but you can see that there is a conversation going on there between the students. So one of them's asked a question and then the others come in. And that both stimulates their interest, we find, and also provides them with information. So good conversations. And that led, in this particular case, so this is fairly typical, of an online survey. So this group of students were then able to ask all the other students they were in contact with to fill in the questionnaire, so they got some real live data that they could then analyse and use and put into their e-portfolio. And this particular one led to a rather lovely video on traffic congestion, which always interests me when I reflect on this, because to you and I, it's perhaps a topic that we've thought about and is a little bit old hat. But the students, when they're that age, it's really rather new and exciting, and this was certainly a very vibrant video. Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much. I'm going back there and would be delighted to take questions. Oh, there's a little, I've got a second. There's been a little bit of an Oscar theme, hasn't there, going on in this event. So I'd like to take the opportunity of saying thank you very much to my colleague, Dr. Matt Richards, who's sitting there, and he was the person demonstrating the course. It's him and his team that actually made our sort of educational vision using the technology into something which was much more powerful than we thought it would be. So there you are. Thank you, Matt.
And we have time, again, for just one question at the back there. Sorry, in the middle. Remember to stand up, let the camera take you.
So I'd like to ask the question, do you see this as a first step towards true 21st century skills, or is there a danger that by delivering it, we're kind of nipping them in the bud?
Oh,
that's an easy one.
That's interesting.
It was to you.
Yes, that's a very interesting question. No, I don't think that we would be nipping those skills in the bud by making them part of a course. I do think what will be the death of them is if we try and assess them very rigorously. And we're having a very interesting conversation within Cambridge Assessment at the moment about whether you really can rank order a skill such as collaboration. People collaborate in many different ways, and is it possible to say what way is better or best? And I think if we start corralling 21st century skills and saying this type of activity is better than that type of activity, that will be the thing that creates problems. I think if we can allow people to follow their own sort of instincts and recognising what kind of learner they are and find some way of assessing that fairly, then I think it will be such an essential part of our learning that we'll look back and wonder why it was never like that.